Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, the waiting is the hardest part. Where you at?
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're going to start this thing off right. Raider! Everything runs through Lubbock.
Great to see you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen once again on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. Today's episode brought to you by Birddogs. Go to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege, and they're going to throw in a free custom tumbler with every order at birddogs.com/lockedoncollege. He's the only Chris Level. I'm Casey Cowan. Great to be back with you once again, Chris. And kicking off the show, you see it there on the other side of Chris's head, right side of your television screen, that name, Micah Hudson. Micah Hudson. This is a name that's been on this radar of ours for quite some time, Chris. And it's even turned you and I into social media monitors. And we're anticipating action, of course, this week. You might have heard about a Texas visit that has been canceled. Chris, you talked about 7-on-7 championships going down. Also, he's going to participate in coming up soon. And as far as social media monitoring is concerned, he might have cut us a break, all of us, because the social media account, at least as far as Twitter, no longer exists. This guy's got me twisted 6 ways from Sunday. I'm like an Aunt Annie's pretzel right now, Chris, because I don't know whether I'm coming or going. And at the end of the day, still feeling very excited, but as the mystery lingers, I got to admit, a little nervous as we monitor this fluid situation. How about it today, buddy?
Yeah, he's got the, I think, state 7-on-7 championships in College Station this weekend with his Lake Belton team, I believe. And yeah, there was an official visit set for Texas this weekend. He has since, and I think it's been reported by folks in Austin, that has been canceled. He was on, he's dropped by there unofficially before he came on his official visit to Texas Tech. So he was in Austin I think they flew out of there early last week. But yeah, I think it's getting close to the end of his process, but only he knows that. I think that, he's had some fun on social media with various things. I think some people have had some fun at his, expense on social media. You have the whole pulling the post from some of the UT sites about, some of the things that they have said, and he kind of had some fun with that. This is all, but I don't think, and it doesn't appear that Texas is in the picture for him anymore. And, and there's, again, and I say that they're not in the picture. It doesn't appear, but they very well could be. So I think, but I don't believe that they are. But and you've seen, even The Athletic has written stories about Micah Hudson's recruitment and Texas Tech and Texas and things like that. So this is just a bit of a big storyline. And it's because this is a young man that's a really, really good player, period. I mean, he's got, you can go look at, based on a recruiting ranking, a prospect ranking, whatever, or based on an offer list, based on, however you want to determine it. This is a young man that could go to Ohio State, to Georgia, to Bama, to LSU, to who whatever blue blood you want to throw their name in there. He's got an offer from them. And then he's got, Rivals.com only has about 20-ish 5-stars. That sometimes that can vary, but about 20-ish 5-star prospects every year. They're very few. They hold that position or that ranking in high regard. And they almost would say, this is a future pro. Like, this is a future NFL player here. And maybe an NFL player that's going to have success in the NFL. That's what we are projecting based on that prospect rank. And all these things are attached to his name, I guess is my point. So that's why it's got everybody stirred up. That's why it's got the people talking, as they say. That's why people are looking at social media and trying to determine, what does this Ric Flair, woo mean? Is this what I think it means?
Do you speak woo?
Yeah, that's right. Well, he's changed his profile picture. I see a lot.
Oh yeah, because we got a woo yesterday.
Yeah, exactly.
We got a woo from Coach McGuire yesterday afternoon.
Yes, you did. Yeah, and meanwhile, Coach McGuire was out with his staff and a bunch of little kids running around doing one of those little kid camps on campus. Because the reason I say that is because I think Tyler Shuck led the charge down a giant water slide with all the kids like following him down this soapy giant water slide. So
dear God, just keep him off a wakeboard. Word to Michael Brewer. God,
yes. Hey, great call right there on
the
that.
wound is still healing.
Yes, that is a great call. But that's kind of I just think a little patience is here. I think the Red Raiders are in pretty good shape here. I would just say that. So
Coach McGuire doing his man of the people thing. I don't know what Sarkisian was doing, probably yelling at an intern somewhere, preferably on national television. But either way, this is.
We're water sliding, we're wooing, we're climbing cranes.
What a week.
Yeah, exactly. We got all kinds of stuff going, man.
You think the summer is boring?
Yeah. Think again.
There are Locked On shows taking days off because they can't find anything to shed a comment on. Yeah. Not in West Texas, all right? They're keeping us busy here this week. The football aspect of Micah Hudson, of course, is why the conversation is so interesting, and that's why we're here to begin with. But all the social media stuff has ramped it up to a further degree, Chris. And while I certainly have had a hearty dose of Schadenfreude throughout this, laughing at the Longhorns and things happening at their expense so far, there is a part of me also that sits here and wonders, are we tempting fate? And it's not so much necessarily as far as a pursuit or landing the guy or whatever, but if you want to play devil's advocate, and this may be actually playing Lord's advocate, because I think this is the fruitful perspective here. I don't know. How much do you toy with them? Because at the end of the day, you still got to put the pads on and go make it happen. So I have enjoyed it because it's one of those like internet things you can enjoy. You're like, ha ha. But then afterwards, you're like, oh, okay, well, you're kind of calling a shot as far as, guys you're going to see down the road. And you always want to caution yourself, whether in sports or out of sports, employers, coaches, whatever it may be, someone that earnestly wants you to be a part of their team, just caution against maybe throwing a cold glass of water in their face here or there. But then back to that internet thing, I'm like, yeah, do it all day, every day. It's just been one to remember, right? And if the guy does not make an impact wherever he does land, Lord help him as far as the narrative is concerned in that case. But I don't remember one, obviously star related, that's been so intriguing. But for all the online antics, I guess, back and forth as well. And it's everyone involved. I mean, for crying out loud, I think it was like UT recruiting guys talking yesterday. Well, now that we're headed to the SEC, we want to recruit edge rushers, defensive tackles, and defensive backs anyway. You mean like you've been doing? Oh, you want to recruit great defenders? Oh, yeah. Well, this has totally changed now that you switched. So everyone is out there just saying things and putting thought, hey, me right now, I'm putting something out there. My mouth hole's moving. Noises are coming out of it. So cautionary tales for all of us to learn from. You might want to suggest here or there to someone in the future, you better be very careful with these things because you really are tempting fate to a degree, because at the end of it, Chris, again, you got to put the helmet on. You got to go make it happen. Everybody involved, because you see assistant coaches, like coordinate, you see everybody having fun with this, right? And maybe I'm just misinterpreting woos or touchdowns or darts on a dartboard or whatever it is. It can all be very confusing, but everyone's kind of out there right now to a degree. You picking up what I'm putting down, or am I just rambling like a madman?
Yeah, I think, I think that the staff knows more than anybody else about what's going on in their building, obviously, and like what their recruiting board looks like. I think there's a lot of decisions that have been made internally that the general public isn't aware of yet. Okay, and I guess the key word there is yet. I think you have to respect, young people's process on timing and specific dates or whatever they've got going. But if you're the staff, you need to know, because you're trying to manage scholarships and manage numbers, and it's roster management 101. So I think a decision, and so then what we get is a lot of the commentary and the excitement, which they're trying to do. They're trying to let you know, hey, things are going good over here, man. Like, it's okay to be excited, man. Puff your chest out a little bit more today when you're walking down the hallway to get you some coffee in the old office or whatever. And I think that's part of it too, because there's been staffs here in the past where it was fairly tame on social media, and I think fans get excited. That's part of the buzz and the vibe that comes with Joey and his staff. I mean, I think Joey, it's like pretty much mandatory. You're going to work for me. There's a certain feel that we've got to push out there about what's going on. We want to be transparent about what's going on within our program and let the fans kind of feel it, sense it, get excited about it. And that's kind of what you're seeing here. Do I know what every Ric Flair woo is specifically meaning over the time that Joey's been here? No.
Are you tracking planes?
Yeah, it's typically always recruiting related. And it always relates to he got some good news. And so the more that it goes out, the more that you can expect.
Like yesterday, just as a prime example, Zach Kitley, a gif of Michael Jordan laughing at an iPad. And he says, Red Raider Nation, soon.
Yeah.
And so we're just all waiting for that soon to arrive. But you're looking, right? I can't speak for Chris. But here on the left side of your screen, you're looking at a guy that is having to come to grips with what he's describing right there. Chest out approach to some of this stuff from a Red Raider fan perspective. I'm at first saying, ooh, and then the gif of the lady that's trying the drink, and she hates it at first, then she loves it, then she hates it.
Yeah, she's like,
So it's a variety of emotions. I'm sure we're all going through it together.
What was that drink? What was she trying in that meme? You have any idea? I'm
going to say goji juice or barley green, something my grandmother kept in her fridge in powdered form.
I thought you were going to say something like root beer or something, and you went.
Root beer is disgusting from the get-go and all the way through the finish. And I used to not feel that way, but I got sick on a root beer popsicle at a different grandmother's house once upon a time. I have made up none of what I've just said, so fact check me if you want to. All right, let's roll on with this here fandangle, Chris. We're going to switch gears, step away from football for just a moment. Hit the hardwood, because, again, you think the summertime is boring. Not in the LBK. Not when you got TBT on its way. The unintentional rhyme master with us today. It won't stop. Hey, it's next on Locked On Texas Tech. But first, today's episode brought to you by Birddogs, the most versatile, best-looking, best-feeling shorts in the universe. You're used to those stiff fabrics other short makers are throwing at you, but that's not what you're getting with Birddogs. You're getting cloud knit fabric, which provides stretch without giving up fit. And yes, it feels as good as it sounds. Cloud knit fabric made from real, organic, cage-free clouds. Try them out today at birddogs.com/lockedoncollege. Anti-stink, sweat-wicking fabric, keeping you cool, dry all day long. Made for all occasions because they're the most versatile shorts known to man. So check them out right now at birddogs.com/lockedoncollege. And while you're there, enter in the promo code LOCKEDONCollege for a free custom tumbler with every order. You're not going to want to take your Bird Dogs off. I promise you that. You want that sculpted lower body look, but you don't have room for a squat rack. Forget the weights. Get with Bird Dogs. They're going to stretch and design to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg to give you that sculpt you're looking for at birddogs.com/lockedoncollege. That's birddogs.com/lockedoncollege. Glad to have you along for the ride on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making us your first listen every day on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. Subscribe on YouTube if you haven't so far, so you never miss an episode. Chris, we're stepping away from the gridiron, heading to the hardwood, the basketball tournament. I've always got to remind myself, not the TBT tournament. You're double redundant if you're going that route. TBT. In the LBK, just around the corner, press conference was going down. Yesterday? You were in attendance at this, and man, I got into this event big time last year on television. The Elam Ending has captured my attention, and I got my tickets to head out to the USA in mid-July to take in some familiar faces that'll be in red and black. Should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, so for people that don't know what this is, this tournament's been around. I don't know what are we talking, Callan? It's been around 3 to 5 years or something.
Yeah,
I can't remember, but it's meant to honestly to fill in a gap in the calendar to provide some sports content. There's a couple of guys that kind of own the concept and idea. They got a media rights deal with ESPN, and they started putting it on TV and ESPN Plus and all these different things. And I think Texas Tech has kind of dabbled in it, but I think they are all in this year, and so much so that you've been able to get one of these regionals in Lubbock, Texas, and they asked Jeff Haxton and I to do radio for it, so we'll be doing radio for the whatever games that Texas Tech is participating in, and this is a lot of work by a lot of people, and I think that a lot of people don't realize kind of what this even looks like, but this is it's a single elimination tournament, and the winning team gets $1 million, and at most it's about 3 weeks of work for these players at most. For the people behind the scenes, like who I was around yesterday, like Clark Lambert and Andrew Sorrells, both guys that played for Texas Tech and are kind of general manager types in that they're trying to worry about sponsorships and trying to fly guys in, trying to figure out practice times, trying to figure out how do we feed these guys, where are we going to put them up in a hotel for all, just travel, uniforms, everything you could think of. And Texas Tech is, to a certain extent, is helping put this on. But yeah, they had a press conference yesterday about it, and I think it's a fun thing for Lubbock. It's in the sweet spot where there's just not a whole lot going on. The first game will be Wednesday, July the 19th at 8:00. There will be 3 other games that day, and then but again, every team advances. So you just envision 4 games on that Wednesday, July the 19th. 2 games on that Friday night, July the 21st, and then 1 game on Sunday at noon, and 1 team comes out of the region. So it's kind of this mini tournament within the 64-team tournament. And you move on to Philadelphia if you advance past the Lubbock Regional. And it's winner take all. Like I said, there is no margin for error. But yesterday was about the bracket reveal. And really, I think it's fun because you look at the roster. And I've been doing around Tech basketball for a long time, and it's fun for me because I've broadcast, I think, almost every one of these guys' games, but this roster spans over, I think, 7 different head coaches, which is wild. And Todrick Gocher was the player that was there yesterday, and he's going to play, and he kept using the term. It's just fun to kind of see the mixing the generations, and that's what it is. There's different eras, and you're just kind of. But everything from Final Four team like Tariq Owens and Matt Mooney to the Sweet 16 team with Mark Adams a few years ago with Davion Warren, to John Roberson, who was a really good player, and Tech wasn't very good at the time. I think Roberson's about 34 years old, but had a phenomenal overseas career, made a wonderful living playing basketball overseas. And, Kyler Edwards, even a guy that I saw at the Texas Tech spring game. He was with Lawrence Odiase, and when he kind of left here, there's a bad taste in everybody's mouth, but maybe he kind of knew something about the situation that before everybody else did on kind of the dynamic here. And but he's back on this team. He was also obviously on the Final Four team. Anyway, it's just fun to see kind of all these different eras of players, and there's 10 of them that have been announced. Wouldn't be surprised if they added another piece or two, but that may not happen. But it'll be fun, man. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's good for Lubbock. It speaks to the brand and the fan base that these folks would want to try to see if it can be successful here and if people would buy tickets and be interested. And I think it'll be a good time. Yeah,
the event that I took in on television a year ago, I really enjoyed. The Elam Ending adds an entirely different aspect to the finish. I think it takes some time to kind of acclimate yourself to the impact of it and maybe what it eliminates or what it includes.
Do we want to explain? I think most people don't understand.
You could be talking to one of them, my friend.
Yeah.
I could explain some things about it.
Yeah, so
maybe not all.
The NBA All-Star Game adopted this, but this is kind of there's a few things about the TBT that there's some international rules that apply. The Elam Ending is one. What it's meant to do is create a game-winning shot with every game. There is no milking the clock or going in intentional fouling, and it's just everybody. It's a free throw contest at the end, and that's not good TV. Okay, so the Elam Ending basically, at some point in the last 4 minutes, at least in the TBT, the way they'll do it is in the last 4 minutes, because they're going to play 4 9-minute quarters, I think. And the media timeout within the last 4 minutes of the fourth quarter, whatever the first stoppage is, they will basically take whoever is winning the game, and they will say, now we will determine our target score. So in other words, for example, if you're up 70-63 at that 4-minute media stoppage, or 3:58, or whenever the clock stops in that first media timeout, there were 4 minutes to go. If you're up 70-63, they basically say they're going to add 8 points to whoever's winning that game. So the first team that gets to 78 points wins the game. So they take the clock off. They still have a shot clock going, but they take the clock off. And basically you're just playing basketball until somebody scores 78 or 79 or more, whatever. It doesn't matter. But as long as first team to score 78. So if you're in the lead, you just got to score 4 more buckets, or mix in a couple of threes or whatever. If you're behind, you've got to go on a run. And so it eliminates some of the intentional fouling in the free throw contest and all that stuff. But also, there's a game-winning shot every time. Somebody's going to hit the shot that wins the game. I think it adds a level of excitement. Now, it also eliminates overtimes. So I think it kind of keeps the games within the TV windows, or tries to, because theoretically it could take somebody, 15 minutes, of game time to try to get to that score if they just are off. But I mean, theoretically, it's meant to, I think, speed the game up and kind of keep it tight within the TV window. The other thing about international rules that I think is fascinating about the TBT, and Todrick Gocher talked about this too. This applies, but like in college basketball in the States and the NBA, if the ball goes up on the rim, you cannot mess with it. You can't touch it. They call basket interference. They'll call goaltending, whatever. You cannot touch it. And internationally, as soon as it touches the rim, it's a free-for-all. You can go knock it off the rim. You can go dunk it in. You can do whatever you can. And Gocher even said, because he's played in Romania and Yugoslavia and all these places, he goes, I can't tell you how many points I've had taken away from me because somebody went up and just knocked it off the rim. And that's meant to be, entertaining. And that's, you've got guys like, Tariq Owens and Zach Smith on your team, on this TBT team for Texas Tech, the Air Raiders. And so I think those guys are probably perfectly suited to play with these kinds of rules. But you've got a ton of international flavor here on your team, guys that have played overseas and within these rules and all that stuff. But I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be fun. My vacations will be over with by then. It'll be kind of just, it's just kind of in that sweet spot, man, to where there's just not a whole lot going in mid to late July on the sports calendar. And that's why this has become so successful and why ESPN picks it up, because people have an interest and they tie it to these colleges, and it makes some sense.
Yeah, there were some wild finishes and some really exciting stuff. I think if you're a team that can't shoot free throws, you breathe a sigh of relief when the Elam Ending is invoked. And at the end of the day, whether you like the change or don't like the change, I think there are obviously legs to this approach. And I kind of wonder maybe if someday we see it installed on a professional level. I don't know. I would never say never, I guess, in that regard. But there is also something taken away, Chris, from the team that controls the majority of the game and then is compelled to score X more points as opposed to just finishing the game. Like, as far as time management in the typical setting, you've got whatever 8-point lead. Well, then it becomes about time management, not turning the ball over and making free throws, obviously. And to some degree, I just as a longtime basketball fan, I think, well, why cover up for those who can't shoot free throws? Because it was like some of what I read on it was it being rooted in not just like trying to, I guess, get rid of the free throw parade in a way, but the hack-a-shack protocol. Get rid of that entirely. I think that in some way was an instigator also. It makes for some really exciting finishes. Some of those times, though, I remember feeling for the team that might have gotten beaten but controlled the majority of the game, because then all of a sudden, Chris, like you were just describing there, well, one team may have to score 9, the other one only needs to score 4 or something. But those 4 may become hard to come by. And then the other team scores 4 first. Well, now they got a little momentum. It's crazy how tight it can get. And all of a sudden the dynamic totally changes, because we know basketball can be a game of runs. But it's really, really interesting and a whole lot of fun. I remember Wichita last year seemed to have one of the great environments as far as the building was concerned. Again, just watching on television. So I hope that can be replicated here in the LBK. I'm sure there are still tickets available, but like Chris said, I think we got a Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday schedule if Tech is advancing. The only thing I'm a little hesitant on, saw in the bracket a team named Purple Hearts fitting the description of the first potential victim. And I don't know if that's just a team that really loves hearts and the color purple, but it would seem odd if it didn't have something to do with veteran service. So I think we're going to have to mind our P's and Q's. Maybe night 1, we're going to have some pleasant applause for effort and things like that as we take on Purple Hearts and hopefully beat them like a rented mule. But then you've got a New Mexico team. You got an Austin team. Got all kinds of people to boo and wow out on the remainder of the tournament. So keep that in mind, folks. What are we talking, July 16th, 17th?
I think it's
around there, right?
It's July the 19th would be the first one, and then the 21st would be the second one, and the 23rd would be the third one. And yeah, the way it shapes up on paper is that you could be playing the University of Texas team in the second game, and theoretically you could be playing the North Texas team on Sunday for the right to win, which is an interesting tie-in with Grant McCasland having spent 5 years as the head coach at North Texas. So lots of tie-ins, lots of reasons to, and the tickets are extremely affordable. They're going to kind of tweak the arena a bit. It's not going to be hey, 15,000. I mean, they know they're not going to get a sold out crowd. So they'll do some things to kind of, make the arena a bit more cozy and try to make it as good of an environment as they can. But, they can have a band in there. They can have intro music, and they can kind of make it a home game environment. I don't know what, though. I asked all these questions yesterday. I don't know exactly what they'll do with all that. But, all that is available and on the table. So it should be fun. I'm like I said, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, no doubt. Hope to see you guys out there at the USA coming up in just a few weeks. Before we're out of here today, Chris, I want to stick with hoops, but the NBA draft is on deck coming up tonight. Red Raiders have made some recent noise as a program in the draft, Chris. And once upon a time, man, I remember it was Tony Battie, and then I thought, okay, the NBA draft is the hardest thing to get into that there's ever been to get into, because it seemed like you were never even close to that radar. That changed a little bit within some recent history, but I'm wondering as we get into a new era, and we've got a lot of new faces on the roster to get accustomed to. Of course, once again, nothing new for a Tech fan in recent history as well. But NBA draft-wise, do you think that we've got some guys on campus right now, Grant McCaslin's roster, that could be on that radar? Or do you have a pick as to who maybe is closest to that kind of category? NBA draft-wise, do you think that we've got some guys on campus right now, Grant McCaslin's roster, that could be on that radar? Or do you have a pick as to who maybe is closest to that kind of category?
Yeah, and obviously the draft is tonight. San Antonio with the top pick, and Wimby. I don't even want to try to pronounce his name, but the 7'3", Euro star that's looks really good. But it got me to thinking. You've had Jarrett Culver, which kind of was in the TBT conversation. I was trying to figure out if Jarrett Culver would be on this team and the TBT team for Texas Tech, and that's kind of really the last draft pick you've had. Tariq Owens and the Moonies, they've kind of had some cups of coffee there with the league, and I think they're still trying to push through and get a shot. But yeah, do you have anybody on your roster right now on campus that we would foresee getting a look from an NBA? I think right now the immediate would be the only thing I could come up with, and he would have to have a good year, stay healthy, and I think progress, a bit from what he's been, and that's Warren Washington. I think, you can't teach size. I'm not suggesting that he's going to be drafted. That's as close as I can come up with on somebody that would be on an NBA radar. I mean, he will get a look just because he's a legit 6'11", 7 foot, those kinds of things. I have been around him a bit, and he is a legit, at the very minimum, 6'11". He is long, okay? He's built like Tariq Owens and kind of slight and just wiry, but he's a bit taller, longer arms and things like that. So let's hope he has the same kind of impact that Tariq did.
Oh, yeah.
But I think I wouldn't rule out, like, in the future, a Pop Isaacs having an NBA look. I mean, he's smaller. That's typically. I mean, and there's exceptions to that rule. I mean,
Sure.
In the NBA, I think the wild card for me that's on your team right now that I think would be interesting is Darian Williams, who has got he was the freshman of the year in the Mountain West there at for the Wolfpack in Reno, and I think he reminds me, and I've actually talked to Coach McCaslin about this because I offered up this name, and he was like, "Yeah, you know what? That's a good comparison." So I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm going to take it and run with it then." But he's got some, I think, some Kasib Powell in his game. If you remember Kasib Powell back in the Bob Knight days, Kasib Powell, I think, had some NBA time. But he was like the 6'7", 6'8", kind of point forward, kind of maybe even before his time. He just filled up the stat sheet. He was a glue guy, whatever you want to say. He scored, he assisted, he rebounded, he blocked shots. He was a really good defender. He just kind of wasn't ever going to get you 30 points on any given night, but he was never going to just no show. And that's kind of what I see with Darian Williams' game. He's 6'7". Does a little bit of everything across the board. I think is a glue guy, and so I think because he checks the measurables box. I think that again he needs to progress and be really good as he gets older and kind of change his body just a bit more. But I think there's some possibilities there for him off into the future. Wouldn't surprise me if he is somebody that can kind of blossom into somebody that would be on the NBA radar.
Like the comparison, I mean, Powell was typically among the 2 or 3 most impactful guys on those teams he was a part of. Certainly would love to have somebody as consistently impactful as he was. And I guess, obviously Texas Tech had some stretches there. I mentioned Tony Battie and then a long run where it was like, hello, does the draft still happen? We hadn't got a phone call in a while. You didn't have some great times then, but you had some good college teams. You didn't have some of the flashiest players. Then you had some really bad eras as well, or stretches through that point also. But I guess it's also the numbers game, Chris, because when I think about getting guys into the National Football League or Major League Baseball or whatever, and then the NBA, I mean, it is an exclusive group, is it not? It's got to be the most difficult path to travel to truly become a guy that sticks and has a prolonged career on an NBA roster, man. It's tough.
Elite club, man. I mean, and need a little luck and be really good. You've got to, there's a lot that comes with it, and it's an exclusive club for sure.
Hopefully, we're back in that pool soon, though, because it was a lot of fun to hear those names called within some recent years. Okay, Chris, a lot of fun today with you on the show, man. Enjoyed it. As always, appreciate the insight and perspectives, and we'll do it again to wrap up the week tomorrow. Thanks for the time.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Keep hope alive, everybody.
Subscribe on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. And we're back around for another edition tomorrow on Locked On Texas Tech.